Sure, All right, we're on the tube. I don't have so many freaking dude. Yo, clip that. Alex, you gotta clip that, dude. That was hilarious. He said we don't talk about that. That's too funny. Well, let's I know we got limited time here, and obviously as we're moving to the downside, I'm sure this is gonna influence a lot of potential shorts and, of course I'm definitely not one to be shying away from. Ooh, damn. Those IWM puts coming back to life. Oh, hold on one second. Hold on, brothers and sisters. What's up, color blue? I mean, I suspect that, yeah, I don't think the market crashes happen right now, but some of these ODTEs would be, life changing. But IWM is going for the floor here for the third time on the five, which is a little bit easier for me to track here. Um, again, probably good chance of that one responding to that floor here. But so as we get closer to the end of day, guys, obviously this is our first major leg down. I know a lot of us been waiting for this. And one of the main areas that I wanted to see, us dip underneath is 251.80. And as you slide down here, you'll notice why, right? Or how. And even at the end of the day, right, we couldn't even get across it. So this third bounce moving really quickly to the downside could usher in, right? Maybe a over the weekend pop back up into the 254.25s. Um, deleting my Prime account. What are you talking about? Oh, did you hit PLTR? Nice job, man. Very good. Yeah, the choppiness today was pretty rough. But honestly, I feel that it was really, again, why do we move down, more than a day's like this? That's more than usually you get accomplished in one day. Like that's actually about, hold on. I bet you, right? So like that right there, that's money, right? For, especially what we've seen lately, that's money. And to get that daily move, right, before the bell rings, just traps people, and yeah, there's always the potential for a continuation of the downside type event. But that, special circumstances criteria needs to be met, in my opinion. Also humble opinion. What's up, YouTube? All right. So back to what I was saying here. Um, maybe. All right. So as we get into the 24-hour candle close, like for longer expirations, anybody looking 247 is going to be one of the major targets to the downside. Now, in a bear market, you have to be prepared for wicked retest because that is, well, by definition, even here you wick up pretty high before dropping down to a new low. And with us leaving all of this empty space behind, again, tread lightly when you're trying to drive into shorts. I do have a target to the downside for speculation at 250, which actually, it's actually not that far away. Or excuse me, 248. I don't know why that was reading out, but 248, 249 to the downside. Of course, one of the next pockets of empty space I'm looking forward to taking advantage of if we do continue this would be all the way down to 238, right? Which is where we start getting into weekly levels. And with that being said, that is a big ass fucking red candle on IWM to the downside. Again, approaching this weekly, but underneath this top. So there could be a little bit of play in there. But as far as I'm concerned, unless something changes here at the end of the day, uh, no. Rivian popped up. The contracts, went up decently. The I don't know if anybody was able to really get anything out of those, but I was not. The IV, or really not even the IV, but the volume dropped on it. All right, IWM is meeting its floor now as we speak. IW, but again, if you made the mistake of trading today, we do have to consider how much price has fallen, or risen overnight. And that's where I go into the 80 to 90% of market movement is outside of trading hours. All right. There's our bounce on IWM. So if you are still heading to the downside on any positions, obviously this would probably be a spot to look at a potential hedge. I'm multitasking as we speak. One second, guys. Whew. You might be able to get away with that, but again, I see a 254 retest. Things are expensive, a little bit more expensive now, so yeah. I mean, I can't imagine, again, we're subject, news obviously can hit over the weekend and things are getting heated, so obviously, and I'm not one to rely on the news, but that's how they'll narrate this. Now, wow, not much of a response from the floor here at all. 339. Yeah, man, I was in a call early in the market, stayed in, got cooked. After not breaking those pre-market highs, obviously, that's where we got trapped in a range. All right, so let's really quickly look at the cues now. On the weekly time frame, that's a weak ass candle, right? It doesn't lose its floor, but it sure as hell is closing close to it. Now, as far as where we wicked, right, it wasn't near my target. My target's still down here around the 588, 589 floor. Now, of course, this one, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I saw, the options on this one for, yeah, they're pretty pricey. Um, on the 24 hour, again, structure's all the way down here. So, if you're going to risk it for the biscuit, which again, we're here to do that. Is this the Potter box? No. Could you find something else to probably substitute this? Yes. But if you are looking for that major, or for the cues to follow all the other major ETFs, we are sitting red on this shelf, right? And that to me tells me at least we get that 593. However, a gap down below that could really send us moving lower. Hey, sweetheart, what's up? You okay? What's up? Hurry up. We can talk about that after. Very cute. Understood, but we'll talk about it when I get done. What's up? Nothing. She just had a childlike question to ask me. I thought it was going to be crazy, but all right. It should be over here in the top left corner, and when you hover your mouse above them, there'll be an X. All right. Well, as I spoke that into existence, we just bounced off of that level. So we'll see how we close here. If we're not able to really accomplish anything, if you hedged yourself or you are hedging on IWM, right? The potential is that over the weekend, if we come off of this third bounce and keep pushing, right, that we'll see that retest up there around the 253.75. So, all right. Now, and again, we're in treacherous waters right now. Right, a lot of crazy shit happening. So don't. There's going to be a time, right, to put some money on the table, and if you could afford to do that, all good. But if you are looking at something and it's outside of your price, stop substituting extremely far out of the money, not target based contracts to be able to get into it. You have impulse issues, okay? All right. Now, if you act on it, obviously. Yeah, I don't know if anybody caught that bounce on IWM, but that if you were playing weeklies, you probably just throttled 150%. All right, let me see something here. QQQ, and then SPY. Now, this weekly candle, obviously finding a floor here off that wick. That's really the only thing standing in the way. In my opinion, we have two targets to the downside, or really a target to the downside on the weekly, still looming at 660 if we see continuation to the downside. However, as far as floors that we were able to reclaim, we held this one at 670. However, we have not been, or it has not been able to successfully grab on to any of the lower or excuse me, higher time frame floors below us. We are sitting here again, bouncing with a little bit of empty space up above. So again, there's no real Potter box here. There's no real empty space unless you're aiming to the downside. Uh, it's kind of a shit piss response off of the floor here, unless something again changes by the end of the day. So you want to see this candle close a little bit closer, and it is within the wicks where price has pulled itself up and secured 677. So that's a bit more bearish. Yeah, yeah, that is more of a bearish close. It does look like you have a 669.20 or 669.30 level to go and potentially break here. And that would, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot. I still see 660. And all right, well, let's look at some individual equities really quickly as we get into the end of the day. Sometimes those can help tip us off on what we might see out of the ETFs. Do I trade oil? Not often. All right. Full port Friday? Not here. INOD 24. How do you figure out direction? You find areas of consolidation like on this one, and then you mark out the boundaries, right, by points of contact, and then you look above and below, right, for what you're bouncing off of. And typically you want to aim for empty space. And if you see a candle close outside of something that sellers are pushing off of, you can assume they've lost that control and price can move up. Or if you see a candle close below the floor going into a similar scenario, you can look down. Now, with that being said, there you go, right? You obviously need this area around 48.35 and 48.70 to clear. Today was a wick up, right? With nothing really accomplished off of that wick. And it looks like if you zoom in here on the 4-hour and you look at the first green candle to your left, you weren't really able to secure that. However, you do have a good bit of volume still sitting underneath you, right? So obviously you're a long ways from dropping, but you were unable to really break and hold this overhead. So at best, you chop here. At worst, you start phasing down. You've already exhausted your floor. So, whew, man. I mean, the main thing here, right, on the 4-hour is that you are dying to hold your floor. I mean, this thing is like fucking refusing to let go. Even as it's red and you have 150.50 underneath you as a floor. Um, I mean, that's a tough one, John, because this to me seems like empty space. How even if though it's kind of it's a big dip and rip. Box is kind of trash. So I think the main thing here, I mean, it's tough to call a signal off of something like that, right? Because, if you want to look at it this way, you're in between what you broke from and what you need to break, right? So maybe some lower time frame, do you have empty space would do the trick. You do. So maybe that, but again, It's not like you don't or can't potentially respond to that. 158, 156.83, and then over the top at 159. Man, something about this, and again, you're in a box, so whatever I say, focus on the triggers. But that whip up, and then yeah, you held, and today I think ooh, that's a tough one. Almost looks like it's like kind of a candidate to pop up, and I see 50-40, right, and 52. That's a tough one, man. Because part of me, right, looks at this and I'm like, okay, well, you got a gap there, you got this empty space clearly up there. Losing the median or where you bounce today would mean downside. But when you whip up, right, and then pull back, it's the same thing if I flip this chart, right, the other way, and we were looking at it to, potentially punching up. This candle right here shows, a failure to continue pushing price, and then lower time frame investigation. Yeah, I mean that's empty. So I don't know what's gonna trigger that. Oh, that's fucking empty too, dude. I'm gonna keep an eye on this one with you. I'm gonna keep an eye on that one because this is definitely something that you would have to be just on your toes, you know. Yeah, there you go. We're gonna hold this one, right? Am I planning on swinging anything over the weekend? Yes, I'm gonna risk a few dollars, um, maybe a stack. Um, but I mean, me personally, I've been operating risk, risk on. Uh, really curious as we get into the close here because we're hitting, major areas, and bouncing oftentimes at the end of the day, can influence buyers to try and step up. Um, but ultimately, yeah, the cues. This one, I'm not really happy about the setup on the cues. However, IWM paid, right, and it's hit that median price. And right now on the lower time frame, right, you got three off the bottom, and you really only have one overhead with a punchback lined up. So I've got a potential 245 retest coming on Monday or even over the weekend. My preference would be, and again, I'm watching here as we get last 10 minutes here. Um, yeah, I mean, this is IWM's first leg down, but with every leg down, right, we typically get a retest of whatever we've broken. Um, and so I'd like to, obviously see a cost basis break or the 50% mark, fail. And this is, not what you want to see if you're a buyer is a bounce and then even unsuccessfully crossing that 50% mark. So, right. Now, to me, this is a super bearish weekly candle, right? And it's pretty close to that 249. And that would give way to, a little bit more. The 24 hour, it's again, when I see something drop, I want to see a pop retest and then drive back down. That's my typical thing off of cost basis. You have to listen, cost basis is where you bounce. So if you are short, you got to be looking at that retest over the weekend and keep it cheap, which everything's a little pumped up right now. You said SPY inclusion of VRT. Ooh, the chart looks like it's gonna dump. Yeah, they're expensive. Man, that's heavy going into that SPY inclusion. I don't know if SPY inclusions always if that no that you know what, I could actually see this fucker selling off. You rip obviously on the fucking news of the inclusion, and then you chop, and you leave buyers stuck up at the highs, and you drop it back down. Hold, how much are those fuckers? Be dead ass wrong. I mean, but the chart right now to me says down. Damn, damn. What a fucking spread. Yeah, that's the only thing that sucks on that one is the spread. Yeah, to me that seems like a downside play. That's just what it's saying to me. But all right, let's see what else do we have. Starbucks. Damn, that's a finna break, I think. I mean, that looks it looks bullish. It looks bullish. You got the long wick pulling up, pressing up against that high. It's just a matter of 99.90, and then at that point, you can probably break this empty space down, and there's nothing empty about it. So I would be aiming for 104. I mean, that's not a bad setup. I mean, obviously odd conditions, but yeah, it's not bad. ER is, oh, that's already hit. Dividends actually just usually after dividends you make a move. That's not bad. I'll look at that one. Yeah, so I mean, again, Oracle's holding, but it is red after four candles moving up to cost basis. So for me, it's just like when you get into this situation, I think I want to let it work itself out. I know, it's like in that candidacy of potentially getting news, but that's yeah, it's weird. Oh, on Monday? Oh man, uh, dude, that is a really weird chart. I can only say 177.25 to the upside, perhaps. God damn. Yeah, that's a I mean the reason I'm hesitant, right, is because it's just not a great earnings setup look. I mean, you got a couple weekly candles together, and you're coming up for the third time, so kind of makes me feel like you could see a pop up here. You do have empty space all the way to 219, so but that I'm gonna leave it at that. Roger. Bitcoin, single weekly. To me, right there, that could just refair what you right off the wick. Oh, disgusting, disgusting, and then drive price back down underneath control, which you have been stuck underneath, and that's also the big thicket. Oh, damn. I mean, that looks like it's gonna know. The candle's not. I mean, I guess not over, but you'd have to go and investigate here. I mean, it could change, obviously, but right now the focus would be 70K right there on that overhead. Can you short Bitcoin? You damn right you can. It seems like you might see a retest off of this back up, but that's interesting, man. That the fact that you're getting shoved back down, and if you secure that, I mean, actually take a look at this. Look at this right here. Look at this. Look at that. Look at those candles right there. Right? So even just getting shoved down into there, I mean, Lord have mercy. Hey, I can't see the charts. Go like this. No, I'm just joking. Why can't you see the chart? All right, let's see what else. We got 4 minutes here. Boy, that looks like it's about to head over that ceiling for the third time. Target 57. Oh my God, it's all up to this box right here. And I believe you're right at cost basis with a gap all the way at 46.50 and it pop over the head. And I'd say 50.80 would be a first target. Give me a second. You got it, homie. All right. So, I mean, just looking at this right now, I mean, it feels like you could gap up into here, and then that's where this box would be retested. I mean, you could get trapped up in there, but again, I know that everybody's, and I'm thinking it too. What's going to happen over the weekend? Is this a full reversal off of that 1, 2, 3 on the floor? That's typically how it starts. So even looking at it as it's holding this level at the end of the day, again, if you're swinging shorter expiration, have an area. I mean, longer expiration, obviously you can kind of work with it, but um, yeah, the 254 level, I see 249 again to the downside. So we'll see. It's not it's not the typical setup there. So Starbucks is interesting. Yeah, I'm actually not super fond of trading Starbucks very often. It's another one of those dinosaurs, and it moves like one, but it does have a pretty decent opportunity. I I Yeah, I remember that. Oh, that was in here, right? Yeah, it was this setup. Yeah. And that was, dude, that was clear as shit. You dump that hard and then consolidate like that, 1, 2, 3, pop. Oh, that was sweet. Um, but then since then, dude, it's just been a fucking nightmare. All right, you got 15 minutes here to kind of watch. A lot of times they'll let it creep here into the day, but um, you said ASTS. All right, catch you next week. Dude, that is I mean, I can only give you the 87.72 target. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're leaving a ton of empty space, and it doesn't seem like it's super fond of doing that. Hold on, there, I see something. This might help. That doesn't help. I mean, my question would really be at the 87.50, and then I mean, if you lose this, then yeah, I mean, go for it. But that's a really odd setup. Do I trade live daily? Yes, usually, or take profit daily. Thanks for the goats. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's a little suspicious. I mean, it's one of the more beat up, like and dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if he like that's what come here, damn it. That is what you just popped up and retested, right? And if I'm not mistaken, a little bit of structure down here. I don't know if he touched that. So you got damn close. So I mean, this could, again, chop for a while, but it is going to be the high that you established and 3460. That'll be 2 points to get you moving in the right direction. As far as the news is concerned, when they make a big buy like that, especially with that empty space down there, you could see a bunch of riffraff before, they actually send this one higher. So I based on what I'm seeing, on the lower time frame, you still got a lot to work through. Small structure, I guess, if you will, but I think the overhead is established as 3070. So make sure or get a higher time frame. 2 hour, 4 hour candle closed in that direction. You could see continuation off of that, but that's an intro. I mean, it's kind of sketchy. Why muffle your voice? Is someone spying on me? Yes. I just had my hand in my face because I was thinking. Uh, hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It helps a lot. Yeah. It's an essential step here. All right. You got about 10 minutes, folks, to make any decisions if you're trading the ETFs. How do I bring my consistency down to pass my funded? You have to bring your consistency down. The hell does that mean? Be less consistent? That's interesting. All right. Let's see. Nice. Rocket Lab. I mean, well entrenched inside of this area, John. Supported by this, neglected by this. So I mean, it's either or, right? You have a good target to the downside here at 57. Upside's a little bit less clear. So damn, AMAT fucking dumped. So there is absolutely no box here. That's where we're forcing boxes, right? That may have been a box, probably was, but none of this, right, can be qualified as a box. It's just too, and maybe on the lower time frame you find yourself. But dude, that's one of the reasons you hardly ever see me trade or even talk about this one. I'm not a big fan of how it moves intraday. Not bad for long stuff, but yeah, you had a punch back there. And did you build anything? So I'm actually using the old boxes because you really don't have any structure here. So I mean, I'd say you're pretty close to probably getting a 301 target to the downside. I mean, literally 322 drop, you have 315.75, and then I'd be looking for that gap fill. Yeah, you can do SQQQ. Yeah. So I'm going to really quickly just review and remind, because one of the reasons that I chose swing trading was because of this statistic that most or majority of price action happens overnight, right? And I know that futures traders, right, get, to potentially capture that. But in the stock market, a lot of that movement happens outside of trading hours. And so, while there was a good theory, not maybe not as much of a clear signal, but um, when you get this big of a day, right, and that this is typical. When you get a big day where you supersede, where is it? Where did it go? Um, right, you have average moves, and you drag that over, and when you go past that, right, that's where you can't expect listen, when you start moving past that, that's where you get um you might see a circuit breaker or something like that. When you start really breaking down, there's like a limit to what they're going to allow. And even today, right, like, while I wouldn't, blame anybody for attempting, right, to take a trade to the upside, it retested a lot of the things that it broke. So it's not a surprise that you go up, and on Friday, when the contracts just got incredibly inflated off of that downside move, that you're going to chop, right? So we got to use our noggins when we look at how much the price or how much price action has been covered overnight. And yeah, on a big gap down, I'll try and see what bounces, and I did. Didn't work out, but I put a very small fraction of what I made to the downside in order to try that out. But levels that needed to be reclaimed were not. You fall back down and the chop begins. And I know what time it is because Fridays are oftentimes days where, it kind of drives me nuts too, because people somehow associate Fridays, like, maybe once a Friday, once a month, you get a Friday that goes nuts, right? And those are the best because contracts are at their cheapest. um but that doesn't usually happen. It is definitely a something that a market maker or institution would want to do is devalue and, basically, sell those calls and kill them. Swing trading is holding overnight. Yeah, it did stick. I mean, and that's the thing, is 24-hour levels when they're broken, and on intraday you cannot climb up above them. You know, you have to kind of like draw that out. And I was actually talking about this in class, right? It's like where you get that big move up. What did I say actually last night, guys? Those of you who were in class, we didn't grab anything. We popped up, retested, and that's one of the reasons why, part of me still sees this as a potential short, or at least down to that 249, because you did retest it, and then you did hit the floor 3 times and you really didn't respond. There's a lot of empty space to the upside, but just like in a bull market, if we're in a bear market, you'll keep climbing if you're able to grab hold. And that's, in some ways what we can, we're not closing necessarily. I mean, sure, it might change here in a second, but um yeah, I want everybody to keep that in mind the next time you see a big move overnight, down or up, right? You can retrace that move, and there's always a potential day trade there. But it is, again, you have to be careful, or not even, fuck, you don't have to be careful. You need to have a map of where things have to go in order to see continuation in the upside. And the first time we literally tapped this wick and faded back down, held the floor, and that's it. Once you get trapped in there, like, price is going to build. So, all right, and that's my final message. I just want people to preserve their capital, and not, if you traded today and got your ass whooped and you just kept going, right? We definitely have some things to work on, right? Things that need to be addressed in terms of, being able to even walk away, because we're dealing with something that can be addictive. You have to have a disciplined mind to be able to know when to step in and when to step away. So, all right. What is this? Beta, a Vermont company? Jesus Christ, it's a robot company right now, dude. I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I can already tell you that I'm not gonna be able to give you. I have a special strategy where I'm looking for one thing. So if I can't see it, I'm pretty useless. There is definitely a channel here at play. I can see the points of contact along the way. Um, so maybe there's room for a big move, but this is all empty space. That's it. And what is this, 20? I mean, you know what? Maybe you get the wick, 70 cents, but uh, as far as doing analysis on something like this, um, I'm not really gonna be much of a help. So, I mean, I could tell you where things break down, but as far as structure, I mean, the boxes are here, but higher time frame structure is not there. Beta technology. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, that's even worse. I think it has no volume, my guy. No volume. So some sort of catalyst, obviously earnings, which says it's on Monday. So maybe the wick, or at best the body at 24.50. And then downside, I mean, it looks like every single pot has gotten faded. So I mean, again, not a super clear setup though, man. Yeah, simple. We saw that one, I think last night too, as well. Yeah, that was actually the target that I gave on Marvel too. Wait, did they have news? What did I say about this? I forgot what I said. I think I mentioned something about the wick pulling itself off, or if it lost the floor down to 68 for empty space. But that was earnings, right? Yeah, that was earnings. Yeah, so I had two targets, 93 and then 69. Not bad. Same Telegram name? No, I do not have Telegram. I do not have Telegram. I'm not DMing you right now. If you have DMs from me, it might respond to some, but I'm not gonna no copy trading. How's your trading going? All that other bullshit. Don't. I'm growing my small account. What's the best way? Take bag hits until I can grow and leave runners. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Make sure that you're trading the higher time frame setups, man. 24-hour time frame. Uh-huh. Yeah. Base hits kind of, but I mean, if you can find the bigger, higher time frame setups, that's where you get to take the bigger leaps forward in your small account and still maintain the same risk. So, all right, guys, I gotta fit in some time with the kids here before class. Class is in at 5:30. We're gonna, obviously keep it relatively short. I haven't gotten around to doing the homework, so I might even do that after class. So we're not doing homework all class, but um, yeah. But yeah, you guys have a wonderful weekend. I'll be live on Sunday to hopefully find ourselves, again with futures moving in one direction or another. Whether that's a gap up or a gap down, we need some overnight price action. So hell yeah, man. UV. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do class tomorrow, man. I'm a little cooked. I don't want to give you guys a cooked version of me. We'll pick it back up. I think probably Monday. Yeah, Monday we'll go ahead and start the class back up. So, and that'll give you guys the weekend to kind of marinate, work on your structure, work on your boxes. You guys could, if you're in the Discord together, you can start it. There's a study room inside of the Potter Box workshop, so don't be fucking shy. Seriously, if you guys, work together, there's chance you can get better. So you said check. You called UVIX and look what it did. Oh, that's awesome, man. I do not trade this thing. Yeah, I do not. In fact, I would tell you honestly, while the setup actually is pretty sweet, having a nice little box down there, that's pretty obvious. And then building outside of it, that was a great trade, man. I'm really happy for you. However, do not trade the VIX, and I do not trade UVIX or whatever all the other ones. What is it? UVXYZ or something? UVXYZ? I forgot what it is. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, same thing with that one. I'm messing with the VRT setup. Dude, the spread on that one is hot dog water, but I really feel like it might dump. I mean, it did bounce off of that median, so we'll see. All right, guys. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Everybody have a great weekend. All right. Peace, guys.